Just waiting to stream to YouTube. This is always the most frustrating and longest part when you're trying to stream something live to YouTube. Okay, and we're done. Okay, so we're going to start now. For those of you that have joined, wherever you are in the world, big welcome. Hope you're safe. Hope you can learn something today. Today, we're going to run through the IDS AcuSense DVR technology with the AOC technology. For those of you that don't know, the AOC is audio over coax. So the great people at Hikvision brought out new technology set where not only did we sort of discontinue the older turbo range and replaced it with the IDS AcuSense range. The IDS AcuSense range is sort of the model that has the built-in intelligence, a little bit like the IDS deep in mind recorders, but the turbo version, not quite as powerful, but then nowhere near the price tag. So it gives you that functionality within a turbo system. They actually then launched an AOC DVR. So the AOC DVR was audio over coax, so built-in microphone into the camera, so you can actually not have to fit a second camera, so time saving, cost saving, a much neater solution. We also have the POC version, which is power over coax, which enables you to power the camera depending on the model used and the grade of the coax, up to 200 meters from the point of the DVR to the camera location. So currently the POC DVR doesn't have the AOC capabilities. So we have two versions you can actually use for AOC. Is the dedicated AOC DVR, which is the one that's got, I'll show you a specification sheet shortly. It's got an S in the bracket. Or you can use the new IDS AcuSense DVR, but it has to be the B model. The firmware that we've had made to include this, which will become baseline moving forward, is only available on the second generation AcuSense, which is a B revision. If you don't know, you should be able to find it on a sticker on the box or send us a serial number and we'll be able to check with you. If you get the DVR out of the box and it's already on version 4.2 GUI, then by default, it should be the second generation anyway. The AcuSense and the AOC technology is only on GUI 4 as well. So just to quickly show you what we have at DVS, we've actually brought in two different camera models, but we are looking to increase that range because it is becoming a little bit more popular. But we also do the two models, two different versions of the AcuSense DVR, or the AOC and AcuSense DVR. So this is the AOC DVR specifically. So it's no AcuSense technology, but it does allow you to do the audio over coax. So it's got an S in the bracket. So anything with an S in the bracket will dictate that it's got the AOC functionality. So we can do it in HQ, HU, and the HT-HI. So for those of you that don't know, the HT-HI series is the version that will allow you to do 8 megapixel turbo at 12 frames a second. We can do 8 megapixel on the HU-HI, but it's at a reduced frame rate of 8 frames a second. The HU-HI K1S. So we've got the AcuSense version here. So it's the IDS AcuSense with the 4S. The 4S dictates that it's got 4 channels of AcuSense that you are allowed to use. Now it doesn't have to be channels 1 to 4. It could be 2, 6, 7, and 8, or whatever that may be. You can only enable 4 channels of the AcuSense smart event technology to be used within the DVR. And we'll run through that on the web browser shortly. So there's the two different model ranges. Today, we're looking at the IDS AcuSense with AOC. You get best of both worlds in one unit. Two different model cameras, but there are some more available. So we've got a turret and a bullet. So if I open the first one, you'll see if it's got an S in the part code at the end, that means the camera has a built-in microphone. So you don't have to fit a second microphone. You don't have to power it. It's actually built in and powered via the 12 volt of the camera. So quite a nice little neat solution. We've decided to go for the 5 megapixel versions. There are 2 megapixels available, but the best selling models that we find in the market is reflecting that is the 5 megapixel. You get the best image. For those of you that want to use a 5 megapixel camera, you can use a HQ-HI. It doesn't specifically have to be a HU-HI or a HT-HI DVR. You can use a HQ-HI DVR. But the camera will be added as what we class as a 4 megapixel light. So it's better than 1080p, but it's not as good as 5 megapixel. It's sort of somewhere in between, but it is better than using a 2 meg camera. So that is the HQHI with 4 megapixel light if you're using 5 meg cameras. Just a little side note. Okay, we'll close that down now, and we're going to go on to the web browser function. So web browsing to the unit is actually in the demonstration room here. I am on my own, so if you've got any questions, I'll look at them at the end. Hopefully I'll answer them as I go through the video, and we'll satisfy your requirements. So we've actually got fitted in the demo room the IDS 7208, so it's an 8-channel HUHIK series, and 4S is the 4 channels of IDS false alarm filtering. This is the current firmware version that allows the IDS technology and the AOC to coexist together. Moving forward, I had a firmware sent to me this morning. I haven't updated it. So we are on the baseline version, but this will be a baseline function moving forward, just so you're aware. But for now, if anybody wants that, I can send that customized firmware to you to gain that ability. Pretty standard web browser functionality, nothing new really. There's one thing you cannot change for the web browser, which I have fed back, but to be sort of clear with you, you'll see in this little image I took earlier, on the GUI of the DVR itself, you can actually change the audio source between camera audio or local audio. So if you're using a camera that has the built-in microphone, you can select the camera audio, or if you're using a microphone that's connected to an existing audio input that's on the DVR, you would select local audible. The way the local audible inputs work is depending on the model, and if you've got 1 channel, 4 channels, 8 channels, 16 channels, they're directly tied to the channel input number of the video. So audio input 1 will be tied to video input 1, audio input 2 to video input 2, etc. So the only thing you have to change on the local GUI is if you are using a camera with built-in microphone, is select whether it's the local audible input on the DVR, and that will dictate whether it's 1, 4, 8, 16, or the camera audio input. We can't do that for the web browser currently. I just thought I'd point that out for those of you that come back and complain later on at me directly. So pretty standard web browser functionality. You've got all of the stuff you expect to find in a web browser, like the online upgrade. You can enable that and it will inform you that there may be a new firmware. This happened to me last night through the EZViz app. It pushed me a notification saying there was a new one to upload, which I chose to say no to because I knew I had the video. I didn't want to sort of disrupt this, but pretty standard. The HUHIs, HQHIs, they do also, they're classed as hybrids. So you are able to run IP cameras on them. Each model will have different capabilities. So the HQHI doesn't have the abilities of the HUHI and the HTHI. And then the 7273 and then 8000 and 9000s, they all have different capabilities, different resolutions that they can support, and different amount of IP cameras. Generally, on the latest GUI 4, you are able to mostly run the same amount of IP cameras as turbo cameras, and then disable the turbo channels to gain more IP cameras to effectively make it an NVR. So you can do that. If you need to clarify that, I do have a chart I can send out that lists not only all of the functionality, but the channel split and what is by default and what can be enabled later on if you want to use the enhanced VCA mode or enhanced IP mode, which will allow you to add more IP cameras in. So again, if you need that information, webinar@dvs.co.uk, and I can send anything I show you today along with the video and any technical information that may help you moving forward. So under camera management, you can see that all of the turbo channels are enabled by default, and I can add IP cameras in should I require. They are classed as hybrids. If I want to disable an analog channel, I can simply unselect the analog channel and click save. Sometimes they do reboot, so I'm not going to do that right now, but that will then allocate another IP channel that can be added in the IP camera management menu. What you will also notice, if you do add an IP camera, you can add ANPR cameras and some smart cameras. And generally, we are able to pick up the sort of run rate smart events from the IP camera. So whether it's the line crossing intrusion, ANPR, human detection, even face detection we can pick up. We don't have face recognition on this model, but just another side note, there is a facial recognition turbo DVR that we are looking to launch. The sample has been ordered for us to test, but we are looking to bring those in because currently facial recognition is only in the IDS NVR range, but we are looking to implement that in the turbo range to give a much more cost-effective solution on the lower end scale. Okay, so just a couple of side notes on that. Again, network, you've got your standard network settings, along with platform access, so High Connect, network service integration protocols, etc. So enable or disable them at your will. What you'll see with the video channels, so this is a little side note which I'm going to show you. So if you add a 5 megapixel camera to a DVR, especially HUHI, they don't always add as 5 megapixel. A lot of the time they will add as 4 megapixel, and then we get a lot of phone calls why the image isn't as good as they expected, or why they bought a 5 megapixel camera and it's not reflecting as 5 megapixel on the actual image itself. So if I select the AOC bullet camera, which I've got added, this is actually streaming at 5 megapixels because I've already made that change. And you can actually adjust the resolution from the front end here. But to change the resolution on the camera itself, it's as simple as this. Select one of the cameras that you want to access it via the OSD. There's a menu button on the right-hand side on the web menu. Press that and it will access the web OSD of this camera. Let me make that bigger. Wait for it to catch up. You can actually then, using the iris open, so you can navigate through using the PTZ controls into the menu choices within the camera. There's a lot of menu choices in the camera that you can actually change, whether it's day-night settings, backlight compensation, digital noise reduction, etc., etc. You can actually go into the video format. Takes a little bit of time to navigate through the menu. Select the appropriate choice. If I want to change that, go left and right to change the appropriate format. And then you use the iris open as the enter key. So you press select, go to 5 megapixel, iris open, which is the plus key, the enter key, which will change the format. The camera sort of effectively reboots, and then you simply go down to save and exit, and the camera is able to be used as a 5 megapixel camera. That is one setting that we get asked a lot. So I thought I'd just point that out. Navigate down to exit, and then use the iris open to come out of the menu. You can see I've actually saved that as 1080p, so the camera effectively reboots, and it will come back as a 2 megapixel image, and it'll tell you 2 megapixel TVI in the firmware version. Again, it's up to you what resolution you run the camera. We'll leave it like that for now. In fact, actually, let me put it back to 5 meg. Bear with. Oh, too fast on the clicky mouse. Save and exit. The camera will reboot, and then it will give me the 5 megapixel stream again. So just thought I'd give you some handy little side notes on that. Again, these are the common questions we get asked when using turbos. Moving through, as I said, that menu that's on the DVR itself that you can't see, you can see if I select that 5 megapixel camera there, the AOC bullet, I've selected video and audio type as on the mainstream, and it's also important to do it on the substream. A lot of people don't change it on the substream. So when you're viewing it through the High Connect app or whatever app you want, the default stream is mostly the substream, which if you don't enable the audio on the substream, you don't get the audio if you want to listen to it live. So do it on the mainstream plus substream, and you don't have that app issue. Again, but you're not able to adjust the audio input directly from the video and audio web GUI. So just a little thing to be cautious of. So the camera is selected as 5 megapixel. Let me just check, put it back to 5 meg and save. And there we go. And back to image, you've got all of the standard settings, display image settings, OSD, and privacy mask. So again, very standard functionality. The next one down that I wanted to sort of show you is the smart event. So we've got the alarm inputs, outputs, video loss, etc., and exceptions. What a lot of you will, if you use the PIR camera, so the turbo camera that's got the built-in PIR, you can actually, if you had one of those, I don't have one fitted, but if you do have one, you can actually select motion detection, discard false alarm. So the discard false alarm function will work with the PIR that's built into the camera itself and the motion detection that's on the DVR. So both have to trigger to then do the appropriate linkage action. So it gives a level of false alarm filtering without using a smart event. So those of you that do like either the PIR camera or the Turbo X camera with the flashing red and blue light that looks like the police are coming, then enabling that discard false alarm on the web menu, that's quite recently added to the web menu, will allow the PIR and the motion to work together to give you that added level of false alarm. So under Smart Event, you can see if I choose one of my cameras I set up earlier. So again, 4 channels that we're allowed to enable of the AcuSense technology. I've enabled line crossing. You can have line crossing and intrusion enabled at the same time on 4 channels. So it's not either or, both can coexist at the same time. So it gives more flexibility, more choice to you. You simply detect whether it's a human or vehicle that you're looking to detect, whether it's both or one or the other. Draw your area. So for instance, if I want to draw an intrusion area, simply draw that area as applicable. So it could be something like this. Again, this will be specific to you. Click stop drawing. The threshold is the amount of time an object, a human or vehicle, has to be present within that box before the linkage action occurs. So again, it gives a little bit of a false alarm filter on there. And the sensitivity default is 50, but just adjust up or down depending on, if it's over triggering or under triggering. The default should be fine at 50. Click save. And then you've got your arming schedule and linkage method that you want to do applicable to that. What you will see with this as well, for those of you that are using the, let me just get the app open. If you are using the PIR alarm camera, there's a new update, which I did do a video on, but if I open the HikConnect app, for those of you that wanted to, put it this way, you'll see, I don't know if you can see that there, the phone, you can see there's a little alarm bell or app icon on there. That enables you to, from the app directly, the HikConnect app, to disable the flashing light. So if it's a nuisance alarm, so if it's happening late at night or you're not from the building or neighbors are complaining, you can actually turn the flashing light function off. The virtual background makes the app icon disappear, but you can actually turn the flashing light of the cameras on directly from the app now. So again, it gives a lot of added functionality to the HikConnect and stops that nuisance. So Smart Event, enable it on up to 4 channels, and it doesn't matter what the channel count is. It can be, the 4 channels of choice. If you try and enable it on the 5th channel, so if I go to the 5th channel, wait for it to catch up. You will get an error message. It says down there, you're only allowed to, it's already tied to 4 channels, therefore you can't do that. So it's the web browser struggling to bring the image in now. But yeah, only 4 channels, but it's up to you how you do that. Line cross and intrusion can coexist together, and then linkage method set as appropriate. And they do also work to monitoring stations. So again, if you're using IMIX or Sentinel, this will work, as well as email and push notification to the app. Under storage, you've got standard storage, but you've also got the cloud storage functionality. Now, if you enable that, you can select Google Drive, OneDrive, or Dropbox. So if you've got one of those systems and you want to use the DVR, it is only available on the Turbo DVRs currently, not on the NVRs, but you are able to send event, so images and substream video to the cloud. So select the appropriate one, get the authorization code, fill in there, and then you can actually allocate space to it if you want. Then you actually select which cameras are going to send. You may not want all of them to do it, but you've got the option to select which camera. So it might be this one, upload type record, and then enable event upload and click save. On an event, it will send the substream video and an image to that Dropbox location. So effectively it is in the cloud, so it's safely stored in there for whatever reason, whether the DVR gets stolen or damaged, for you have got it in a second location. What I would say is if there's lots of events, it will sort of take a long time to keep uploading that footage to that. And again, depending on your upload speed, it will definitely dictate how long that takes to upload that footage. But it's quite a nice little feature. Quite a lot of people use that. If you want to know any more information, let us know. What I would say is on the schedule settings, choose the camera that you want to send to the cloud. Under advanced, stream type should be selected as double stream. By default it is now, which means the main stream and the substream are both recorded, because the substream is the one that we send to the cloud. So another nice little touch if any of you want to use that function. And then what else have we got? So yeah, again, ANPR under vehicle detection. If you add an ANPR camera, we can still do ANPR functionality. It's not as powerful as the ANPR on I series. It doesn't have, it still has the white list and blacklist, but it isn't as big as it is on the I series NVR. But again, it does still work. And then you have got the functionality for VCA cameras. If connected, like I said, it pulls the smart event from that IP camera. So it's a very flexible unit. Again, if you're using a lot of smart events, we'd urge you to go to the appropriate NVR and human body capture if you're using an applicable camera. Under local, you can enable the rule. So again, those of you that saw within the image, you can disable or enable the rule. So if you don't want to see the actual VCA rules, you can actually turn those off, because sometimes they do become a little bit annoying. Click save. I'll show you the AOC camera itself, the functionality. So I've added a radio in the room. So this camera here. So there's a little DAB radio down here. I'll enable the audio. And the audio is quite good. That's a radio 4. So again, depending on the level of the audio that you're recording and how far that object is away from the camera will dictate how good that quality is. But again, for the camera technology with a built-in microphone, if you played that back, I know I'm talking, but you would sort of understand what they were saying. So hopefully that's helped answer a lot of questions, giving you some thought as to where you could deploy this, or just giving you some helpful insights. I'll check if there's any questions. There's 3 questions on here. So thanks for these talks. So that's okay, Mark Samuel, no problem, absolutely fine. All right, I meant to write my question too. We're seeing a lot of blurring on image from turbo cameras, mostly at night if there's a quick moving object seen. When we see there's an IP cameras, we change the minimum shutter speed, and hope this helps. If I'm not watching the turbo. So there's a couple of things that you can do. Like I said, if you call the OSD, depending on the camera model and type, they will have various options within the camera itself. It's not something, different models and different price ranges have different functionality. So the best one is go into the OSD itself. And again, if you want, drop me an email, webinar@dvs.co.uk, and we can explore this further. Also, if you've enabled H.265 Plus, that can have a big effect on it. So H.265 Plus, just drop it down to H.265 and see if that has any effect on it. If it doesn't, drop me a message. I'm happy to dial in, take a look, and then offer some advice based on that specific application. And then we've got, what is the maximum minimum bit rate for any set of detection for a human? So basically this here is another level of false alarm filtration. So if you go into event, quite a good question, into event, if you look at the minimum and maximum object size, again, we do this on the IP camera technology, NVR, DVR, similar process. If, for instance, you're getting quite a lot of false alarms and you want to sort of eliminate that, whether it's reflections off pools, ponds, sun reflections off glass, it could be like foliage, etc. Even though with human and vehicle enabled and it's still triggering, you can actually draw maximum and minimum object sizes, which sort of, again, are given added function of filtration. So for instance, the best way of doing this is if there was a human stood this end. So the maximum size would be this size, a human would be stood here, and that would be sort of me within that box. And then the minimum size would be a human stood here. So between the 2 points, click save. That adds another layer of the false alarm filtration in. So again, I tend to not use it by default. And then if we're having a lot of false alarms, add that layer in, which then does cut it down even further. What I would say is this technology is not going to be, completely foolproof, and you'll never eliminate false alarms altogether. It will drastically reduce it, but it will never give you 0 false alarms. And I don't pretend to make that claim. And if anyone else does, I would definitely question that back. So hopefully that answered that question and why that exists and how you can use that to further enhance the performance. So again, I think we're sort of finished there. That was sort of about 30 minutes, which is what I wanted to spend on the turbo stuff. Hopefully you all gained a little bit of insight. Hopefully it was helpful. Again, we've got more webinars over the next couple of weeks. www.dvs.co.uk/TechTalks. That'll give you the latest sort of webinar list. Click to join there. It's free to join. Any suggestions, please use webinar@dvs.co.uk. Any feedback, any comments, anything you'd like to see. We are thinking of running an open FAQ webinar where you can all join and just ask any sort of random questions and I'll answer them the best I can. I'm not a doctor, so I can't answer anything medical, although we can have fun trying. But anything sort of security related, we will do our best. Again, wherever you are in the world, stay safe, take care, stay tuned and stay subscribed. And we'll see you next week for another webinar or how-to video. Cheers, guys.